Hello, TikTok. We are live, we are live, we are live. I wish I would have wrote out what I wanted to talk about here, but I definitely have things I want to talk about. Obviously, a mob of single mothers. For any of you that can see the topic, we're going to talk about that. Mob of single moms. We're going to talk about a fun, teachable moment I had with my boy yesterday. Hello, fellow crusher. Love when my bears are in the house. And see, that's the power of community, because I know from the language that people use that they belong to my community. And that's, well, anyway, we're going to talk a lot about community because I have to address this mob of angry moms. Of all the people I've triggered in my time on the internet, and I have triggered a lot of people, I gotta say, I did not see the angry mob of single mothers coming, but welcome to the internet, baby. You never know what you're gonna get. Mama said the internet is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Unless you do your search on Google instead of DuckDuckGo, because they'll give you authoritative news now. Then you know what you're gonna get. Unless you turn on CNN, then you're going to get lies, people. You're going to get lies. So we got mob of single moms, we got teachable moment, and we got homeschool getting started. Because, well, I mean, I wish I would have been able to... This is the problem with my account being in the situation it is. Because all the people that were mobbing me from my other account, and there were so many people asking for help getting started with homeschooling that it's unfortunate. A lot of them won't even know this is happening, but I had a great Thanksgiving. This is my new home away from home, right? I was in New York, I moved to the Carolinas, and over the break, I wasn't with my immediate family for the first time in a very long time, right? I wasn't with my mother, 420 Dry in the house, how you doing? I wasn't with my mother, my sister, my father. But you know what? I was with my wife, and I was with my children, I was with my in-laws, and a bunch of friends that I've made since I've been in the Carolinas. It's a windy day here. I was actually at a good friend of mine for the last few months. He's actually a Marine gunnery sergeant. And I was at his house with his family for Thanksgiving, and I'm so thankful for that. Wow, the wind really... kicking a go. Let me just adjust my baseline here. And then we're going to talk about the mob of single moms that came after me. You know, whenever you get the anger, you know you've touched on something important in our zeitgeist, the culture of our time. We've started Craft Mondays with some other homeschoolers, having a blast. That sounds amazing, and that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about, because I am going to talk about getting started with homeschooling, but first I wanted to address the mob. So last week, I posted a video that wasn't meant to get at anywhere. This was on my other account, my Cubs to Bears account, which I've had a lot of success with now. I'm up to 10,000 followers in just a few weeks on that one, so God is great. And... So I made a video that I didn't think was really controversial at all. Certainly I didn't think was insulting. And I just started the video by saying, why would anyone send their children to daycares? Why would they send them to public schools? These are indoctrination centers. And then I went on to explain why these institutions are indoctrination centers. So as far as addressing parents themselves, that was it. That was all I said. I said, why would anyone send their children to daycares or public schools? These are indoctrination centers that strip children of their creativity, that separate them from their roots, that teach them that their ancestry is somehow rotten to its core, that it makes them ashamed of their heritage, that it strips them of their creativity, right? So I just went on to bash the public school system. And then, sure enough, I guess when you get into the general populace, you get a lot of snowflake type behavior, because all of a sudden I was inundated with single mothers that are like, how dare you? You don't know my situation. Your privilege is showing. It's Oh, it must be nice to have all that money. It must be nice to have family. Like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I'm locked up. I'm locked up. The talk won't let me out. That's all right. I got my other account, Cubs to Bears, going very well, and I'm thinking this account should be freed up December 7th. So hopefully that will happen. And I try to be a good partner with TikTok. I really do. So we'll see. Because those parents can't handle the thought that they are failing their kids. Yeah, well, listen, just because someone's sending their children to public school doesn't mean they're failing their children. Like, I don't actually believe that, right? Like, everyone, I'm a single mom. I would love to homeschool. I'm looking into it. Thank you for speaking on this. All right, stick to this. Hear me through, because first I have to address the attacks, and then I will talk about homeschool getting started and everything you need to know. You can homeschool. I've worked with many single mothers, and there's single mothers all over America that homeschool. But I did want to address the elephant in the room from my post, because it was like, of all the controversial shush I do, it was like the hatred I got was crazy. Just all these must be nice people. Must be nice. Oh, your privilege is showing. And when I was reading through the comments, I was really blown away by, and you get this because kind of when you touch on a subject that people are, maybe they have internal shame about or something like that, they tend to react emotionally. So I really wasn't bashing parents, but I got a lot of these single moms, and like they did response videos and things like that, and like this one woman, she was a nice woman, she was fine, she made a response video, and she was like, I don't homeschool because I'm poor, and because the father of my children has never met his children. The father of my first child has never even met him, and the father of my second child isn't around. And I don't have any friends that I could rely on. And as I'm listening to this woman talk, and I do have compassion for her situation, what's jumping off the screen is a lack of personal responsibility, right? Because you should never sleep with someone who you aren't certain will be willing to raise your children, right? I'm not like picking on women. Like, I would never sleep with a woman that I wasn't confident would be a great mom and a great wife, because that would be irresponsible on my part and potentially put me in a bad situation. But I understand that we're young, we do things, right? Whatever, maybe she thought this guy was good, slept with him, he left, right? That happens, I get that. Which is why I tell people marriage is so important, but this culture is just so backwards. Right? If you don't sleep with someone until you're married, then they're not going to pull that on you. And it's an epidemic. I mean, I couldn't believe how many single moms were coming after me. But even with that, right? Like, shit happens. I get that. Shish happens. But then then she did it again, right? And then my second child, the baby daddy doesn't want anything to do with, well, okay, so you made the mistake the first time and now you did it again, right? There's a lack of responsibility happening here, right? The same reason you're saying you're poor, well, there's circumstance, but I'm seeing a pattern of irresponsibility. And then, I don't have any friends. Well, again, what decisions are you making in your life that you don't have anyone you could rely on? Because if we are to grow as friends, again, what decisions are you making in your life that you don't have anyone you could rely on? Because if we are to grow as a people, switching between Wi-Fi. All right, I'm back. Yeah, my friend, I'm new to North Carolina, but my new friend, just a few months, his car broke down a couple weeks ago. He called me, and I picked him and his family up. My other friend had to go pick up a tractor, and there was a large financial transaction, and he asked me to come, right? So it's important that we build community, because when you do that, you actually have assistance. And in terms of single mothers, I think I'll do connection issues. Building community is really important it does take Well, if you're a single mother, right? If you're a single mother and you... All right. Yeah, it's giving me a hard time. I think I'm going to go inside today so you guys could actually hear what I'm saying. And I like to stream from out here because it's just more enjoyable, but I need to get more contact points so that my Wi-Fi extends better. You know what? I won't go inside, but I'll sit right outside. Right outside the... Here we go. A lot closer to the house. So, a lot of the comments I was getting were in regard to, oh, you're so privileged, you're so privileged. I mean, one, those people don't know my stories, but my stories. How do they know that? But that's not the point. And I would tell you I am privileged. I've been very blessed. I have an amazing wife. I married well. I married into a good family. I have great in-laws who are devoted to their grandchildren, who are very supportive. I came from a family of two parents who came from they have a great marriage, right? I had older siblings. I'm so blessed with family and community that I absolutely do have privilege. But the truth is that, we always hear like this group has privilege, that group has privilege, that everyone has their own privilege, right? There's, some people have an easier time getting into college because of demographic things, right? Like everyone has privilege. Some people, anyway, I don't want to get too into that because, well, for anyone that's followed me for a while knows why I don't want to get into that. But we all have privilege. The problem is the mindset that people were approaching me with, right? That, oh, your privilege is showing. It must be nice that you can homeschool. You have money. Well, what I hear is a victim mentality. Like, look how good other people's situations are. But the truth is that no matter what your situation is, that, and your children should see this, that if you have a winning mindset, you'll do well. And like, yeah, some of us have privilege, some of us don't. When I was on Long Island, in terms of living, like, I had an 1,100 square foot home on Long Island on 0.25 acres, which, cost almost $500,000 for that, right? And I was in a lot of debt because I took on a big mortgage to get that home. And, I didn't want to move my family across the country. I didn't want to sell my house, move my family across the country, be away from my parents and my siblings. But I did that to get out of debt because the world was changing, right? So, we all have privilege, but it's really our mindset. And one of the worst things we can do as parents is teach our children that they're a victim. Never allow your children to see you thinking you're a victim, acting like a victim, because whatever our circumstances are, we have to overcome them, and we can do that with hard work, we can do that with creativity, we can do that with community. So, let's talk about homeschooling, because I did tell a few people to come here because I'd introduce them to homeschooling. Tomorrow I'm going to do an episode of homeschooling as a single parent or a single mother, because I think that's very important. And I might even have a single mother on to do an interview later this week to talk about her experience, how she does what she does, because she homeschools multiple children. She's a single mother, so I'll see if she wants to come on. But I think that would be constructive for a lot of people who like to tell me what can't be done and what I don't know. So the first thing is with homeschooling, and I'm just going to get into getting started. Homeschooling does not have to be overwhelming. So many people who are unfamiliar with how to homeschool their children see a mountain, and they see the 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever it is, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. public school schedule with those 45-minute block schedules, and think, how could I ever replicate that? Well, the first thing I would say is you don't in any way have to replicate that. And at the end of the stream, remind me, I'll tell you about a teachable moment I had with my son yesterday, which was just I really enjoyed it. So the first thing with homeschooling is understand that you have flexibility. You can take baby steps. You can operate on your own schedule, that you don't have to do school between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. or 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. That some people do homeschool early in the morning. Some people do it in the afternoon. Some people do it at night. Some people homeschool over the weekends. There is no one right way to educate your children, and the mere act of pulling them out of public school gives them an advantage over their peers, because at the very least, they're not being indoctrinated by a statist system. By the very least, they're not being taught perverted concepts that are inappropriate for children their age that under any other setting outside of the school would be a crime, right? They're not being taught to hate their heritage and their ancestors. Memorization isn't being prioritized over critical thinking. So the mere act of pulling your children out of school gives them a leg up. Now, I see my friend Joy here said isolationism is dangerous. Well, if you think that homeschool is isolation, you simply don't understand it. But you've come to the right place, and if you hear me out, you'll understand why that's an absurdity. In fact, my homeschool children are constantly around other children, other adults. They're constantly in town. They're always doing things. And the families that I work with, and the homeschool families that I've had the privilege of working with, and many of them are in this stream all the time, their children are some of the most socially engaging and worldly people you will ever meet. In fact, the notion that in order to be socialized, children have to be put in an artificial setting where they're told where to sit, when to sit, who they will be with every day, what they will do, what they're allowed to say. They will raise their hand to go to the bathroom. They will sit between concrete walls for the majority of their day. Life is homeschooled, right? Life and homeschool is a field trip. Real homeschooling is not what is depicted on television. That's what they want you to think. Homeschool children are the most well-rounded people you will ever meet, because homeschool is life school, and they get out into the world. So when you decide to homeschool, the first thing you want to do is formally withdraw your children isolationism. I mean, homeschool children attend church groups. Homeschool children are in art classes. As 420 Drya and her daughter were in an art class with other homeschool children today. Homeschool children have co-ops in which they meet with other homeschool children in their area all the time. They have play dates with their friends multiple times a week. They go to parks every week. They go on field trips every week. They get out into the world. They join sporting teams. The notion that homeschool is isolation is so absurd that only someone that hasn't done it would think that. Do you think the associations and government will start implementing stricter requirements? I think it's inevitable that they will try to crack down, which is why I'm already bringing the fight to them, because people think that you could be silent. No, the fight's coming, and that's okay. And whatever they do, we just adjust to. So if they change the laws and I have to start a private homeschool, a private school with other homeschool families in the area, well, we can do that too. So there's always ways around things. You just do what's within the law. So if you decide to homeschool, the first thing you need to do is formally withdraw your children from school. So there's a website, hslda.org, Homeschool Legal Defense Association.org, HSLDA. You go to that website and you can download the forms that you need to submit to your local school district that you are formally withdrawing your children from school. Once you withdraw the children, you want to use that same website, hslda.org, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And the first thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with your responsibility as a parent record keeper. So in some states, you have to have a GED. In some states, you have to have a high school diploma. In some states, there are certain subject matter that are required. In some states, you have to have a certain relationship with the school district in terms of sharing information. In some states, you have to take standardized testing. Whatever it is, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, they have a map. Click on your state, and it will list everything you need. Once you do that, and you're familiar with your requirement as a homeschooler, you want to get the art of record keeping down. Now, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, they'll tell you everything you need to know about record keeping. And there's a free service, Homeschool Sked Track, SKED Track, which assists families in keeping their homeschool records. Now, essentially, with your records, you want to keep the subject matters that you've covered, the grades your children receive from you, any portfolio information, any extracurriculars you've got your children involved with, whether that's construction, engineering, cooking, whether that's a local art club, a local theater, a local sporting team, field trips to museums, the aquarium, whatever it might be. You just want to have a record of that because your record keeping becomes very important later on. So you formally withdraw the children, you familiarize yourself with the regulations in your state, you familiarize yourself with your responsibility as a parent record keeper, which is very, 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 very important. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Yes, 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 parents need to stand up and educate, not the government. Yeah, in my opinion, that the homeschool movement in America is the number one freedom movement in America, and that's why I push it so hard, and that's why I will never, ever apologize for ripping public school, and I don't care how many single mothers are offended by that. I really don't care about snowflake behavior. I don't think it's constructive. I think it's destructive. I think people put their feelings over facts. I think people put their feelings over what is better for their family, what is better for their community, what is better for their nation, what is better for their country. And I will never apologize for ripping the institution of public schooling. And when I get a mob of angry single mothers coming at me, it only makes me want to go about 10 to 15 to 20 to 100 times harder. Homeschooled all four of mine. Oldest is in 7th grade. God bless you. You are a patriot. Your name is Courtney, so I can see you're a mother. And in my mind, in my opinion, the homeschool mother is the modern day Rosie the Riveter. Because in World War I, America reached out to its mothers and said, it reached out to the mothers and the women of America and said, your country needs you. Well, right now, the government has essentially turned against the American people, right? Well, every freedom-loving person in America is looking at the mothers of America and saying, your country needs you. We need you to keep your children out of these daycares. I beg you to keep your children out of these daycares. We need you to keep your children out of these public schools to prevent them from being indoctrinated. We need you to raise your children right, with morals, with critical thinking, with entrepreneurial experience, with values that are worthy of the nation, of the people of the United States of America, because when you do that, that rising tide raises all ships. The more of you that do that, my children grow up in a better world. They have allies in this world. You are the Rosie the Riveter. And don't ever let anyone tell you different. And don't ever let anybody shame you from doing what you know is right. Because women in the modern world are relentlessly shamed if they say they want to stay home and raise their children. Oh, you're just a housewife? Bullshit. A housewife has more responsibility than a working person. A housewife sacrifices more than nearly anyone else in society. A homeschool mother sacrifices all of their free time. They can put their children in public school, right? You don't think that's easier? I'm gonna put Johnny in public school? They sacrifice their free time, everything, because they put their family in front of themselves. They put their country, their nation in front of themselves. But they will shame you for doing that. So don't tell me I'm shaming single mothers, because no one defends the woman of America. I don't say no one, but I defend them a lot. And I believe in it. And I see the way women are shaved, the way feminism is pushed, the way women are told that if they're not pursuing a career in engineering, they're somehow less. That's ridiculous. In fact, a woman who stays home and is a good wife and raises her children right, in my mind, should be held in the highest regard in our society, because that's how you build a strong society. Which society do you think will be stronger? Society A has the government raise its children. Society B has mothers raise their children. Is it obviously society B with the mothers raising the children is going to be a better society. This is so no-brainer, and it has been indoctrinated out of us to the point in which anyone who talks the way that I'm talking is labeled as, oh, look at this misogynistic guy, look at this bigot. No, it couldn't be more the opposite. And the only reason that's the narrative is because the powers that be that use their money to leverage the narratives in our society, right? The narratives in our society, they want women thinking that they're less for staying in the home, when the opposite is true. I'm going to continue on homeschool. For anyone new to this, I kind of go on these rants. Yes, kids are not being told both sides. It's very one-sided and very liberal. Yeah, it's very statist. And by the way, another rap I get is, oh, well, your books and you're just indoctrinating your children. Anyone who reads my books know they are not indoctrination. They simply mirror what is happening in society to the children so that children could think critically. And if you download my lesson plans, they're open-ended questions designed to get children to think critically. We are not indoctrinating our children. That's what happens in public schools. In public schools, children are told to memorize historical so-called facts and dates. Memorization is prioritized over critical thinking. In our homeschools, we allow our children to read the primary writings of historical figures, not on one side of historical events, but on both sides of historical events. They are not only reading the primary writings and correspondence of George Washington, they are reading the primary writings and correspondence of King George over in England. Because that is how you create critical thinkers. You allow children to think for themselves, to formulate their own unique understanding of the world and how it functions. And if you do that enough over time, they will form their own unique worldview. So the opposite is what happens in homeschool. We are second-year homeschooling and absolutely love it. Depends on the mother. Not everyone teaches the same, and not every child learns the same. And the truth is, there is no one right way to educate your child. Do not be afraid to follow the interest of your children. In fact, this is a good segue into the story I wanted to tell about my son, because yesterday my son and I were hanging out and we were doing some stuff, and in the middle of what we were doing, he asked me about the toilet bowl and how it works. Ding, ding, ding. Teachable moment alert. Hey, there's a concept that works. So we dropped everything. We stopped what we were doing. And we took off the back of the toilet bowl and we examined the mechanism, right? The little handle, how it's connected to the plastic piece, how it connects to the chain, how it connects to the center chamber. We flushed it. We observed how if we lift up the center chamber, that the water will continue to flow. It won't stop. But if we put down the center chamber, the flow of water will stop. We put that back together. We then went to the toilet bowl lid. We took out a screwdriver. I screwed off the lid. I took the toilet bowl apart. We examined it. We put it back together. I put it back on. We screwdrivered it shut. And this was our introduction to plumbing. Now my son has a basic understanding. He's 3 years old, of a toilet bowl and how it functions, and a basic introduction to plumbing, something we're going to build on, because skills set a person free. A plumber will never be declared unessential, because when your toilet breaks, you better believe you need that plumber's assistance. Skills over subject matter, not that subjects don't matter. You think they teach that in public school? I cannot repeat enough. The mere act of pulling your child out of public school gives them an advantage over their peers. You're right. Not everyone is an educator. Not everyone is me. Not everyone is my wife. Not everyone is 420 Drya. Not everyone is Marine Princess. I don't know if she's here today. Not everyone is some of the amazing parents I've worked with, but everyone has their own unique love for their children. And if you pull your children out and you just make their education a priority, you make sure you read books to them every night before bed, you make sure you take advantage of those teachable moments, everything else will fall into place. And if you come to my stream every day at 12, I promise you I will show you how. My private homeschool community, Homeschools Connected, $10 a month, promo code together, you get all the guidance you need. No one is a better teacher than your own parent. Yes, they are taught one way to do things, right? We have the opportunity to teach them life skills, and it's okay to do math problem in your head. Yeah, in fact, that's why I always say skills over subject matter, because a plumber could always find work. A carpenter can always find work. And when a photographer could always find work, a videographer could find work, an artist could find work. And if you combine those type of skills with a lifetime of entrepreneurial experience, which is when we get into the concept of unschooling, which is from 5 years old on, every 6 months, every semester, you as a parent should make sure your child does one entrepreneurial type thing at least. And if they do that, you'll create a mindset in your child in which they are trained to see abundance, to see opportunities where other people do not. And when you're combining skill development, like baking cookies is a skill, right, with entrepreneurial experience, hosting a bake sale, right? Sorry about that. I accidentally clicked on a link. YouTube popped up. I clicked on it. Right? A bake sale is entrepreneurial experience, and you're doing that over and over and over again from the time they're 5. Imagine the mindset and the skills, right? Your child will have skills to work with and a mindset where they see opportunities. There's a concept, I call it creative excellence, and this is such an important concept that every parent should be taught, every parent should understand. A child capable of taking what's in their mind and bringing it into physical reality holds the key to unlock the full potential of their imagination. Your child could do art, your child could write and play music, your child can do computer coding, your child could do construction and carpentry. When they have an idea, they can produce it in the physical world. And then when you provide that with talent stacks, which I consider entrepreneurial experience with marketing, experience with sales, that we start getting children when they're 5 years old, imagine how lethal, how capable your child will be of living an independent and free life by the time they are 18 years old. Never allow someone to shame you for educating your child, and never for a second think the drudgery that is happening in public schools is superior in any way or on the level in any way into what you can achieve as a parent educator in your home. And you do not need a college degree. You do not need a master's to achieve that. Public schools were failing my child who was in 5th grade with a 2nd grade reading level. Yeah, and when you have a child who falls behind in reading, so what happens in public school, when your child falls behind in reading, right? They're reading at a 2nd grade level, but now your child's in 4th grade. They're still going to try to get your child to read 4th grade reading material. And then, hey, I can't figure out why little Johnny hates reading. Is it because little Johnny feels like he's terrible at it? Because he's embarrassed when you tell him to read in front of his classmates and he doesn't know how to read? If your child's reading at a 2nd grade level, you take a step back and you let them read 2nd grade material. And if your child becomes averse to reading, where they don't want to do it, you don't make them read stuff they don't want to read. You ask them what they're interested in. You allow them, you buy books, like if your child's interested in cars, buy a bunch of really 2nd grade and lower reading level books on cars. And just let them read for 45 minutes, an hour a day about cars. And over time, they'll start to get better, because our objective is to have a proficient reader at age 18, right? I don't care if they're reading at a 4th grade level in 4th grade. I want them to love reading and get better at it at their pace. And by the time they're 18, when all of their friends are going on Spark Notes because they don't want to read the assignment, your child will be making TikToks like, I understood the assignment. So, you formally withdraw your children from public school. HSLDA.org has the forms. Familiarize yourself with the regulations in your state. Click on the map on HSLDA.org. Familiarize yourself with your responsibility as a record keeper. Homeschool SchedTrack, a free service for that. After that, don't try to replicate that 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. public school schedule. That's a mistake. A lot of parents do that and they realize later on, like, oh, I didn't have to do that at all. Homeschool's flexibility, it's time, it's freedom. Take a week. You can go back and watch my old streams on YouTube, Classical Learner. Familiarize yourself with Montessori, Charlotte Mason, classical education, and unschooling. Charlotte Mason, Montessori, classical education, unschooling. Maybe I'll do episodes on those later in the week, because I got so many people like, what, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I can't homeschool. I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I'll show you. Home Fry 6. Yes, please. Thank you for this. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do like a whole week kind of on homeschool getting started. Charlotte Mason, Montessori, unschooling, classical education. I'll do episodes on them this week. I think I'm due. But I'm also going to, I think tomorrow I'm going to do a whole episode on homeschooling as a single parent, just to show people it can be done. It's grabbled, but I like that scene from the movie Pearl Harbor where FDR is in a meeting and they're telling him what can't be done, right? He has polio. And all of a sudden he stands up out of his wheelchair and he says, "Don't tell me what can't be done." I love that. Mindset. Mindset is everything. Don't bring that victimhood mindset around me, single mothers. Of all the groups of people I never thought I'd be beefing with, I never thought it would be single mothers. But the truth is most single mothers love me. So it's just these people that they have a victim mentality and they don't take personal responsibility in their life, which is not true. In fact, most single mothers I meet that I've had the privilege of working with take a lot of responsibility. So it's really just those people that, exactly, I'm a single mother homeschooling. Okay, can you email me at classicallearnertoday@gmail.com? If you're willing, I'd would like to do an interview with you, because I think a lot of people could benefit. Like, you could do a lot of good in the world if we did an interview. I could do a lot of good in the world, and you, because I couldn't believe, I mean, the video's on like 50,000 views on that one, but just the arguments, like, it's basically people who take responsibility in the comments. You should go watch the video. It's you gotta find it. It's on my Cubs to Bears page. But like the arguments, I'm seeing it. I'm like, man, I tapped into something. By the way, I'm gonna make more videos just like it because I love it. I can't help it. And you know what the good thing about it is? Because I was thinking about it. What I'm doing by making these videos is I'm establishing, I'm shifting the cultural paradigm to that, everyone acknowledges that public school is not desirable. Everyone's acknowledging we don't want to send our children to public school, but how dare you, because I have to. That's step one. That's step one. I always tell people, stop complaining about the people subverting your country and just subvert the subverters. If public school is breaking my country, I subvert public school. And that's what I spend my time doing. And hopefully I'm able to keep doing it because I've had a lot of success. Yeah, my email is classicallearnertoday@gmail.com, classicallearnertoday@gmail.com. That's a single mother saying, sure, it's made life easier for us. Homeschooling. So familiarize yourself with Charlotte Mason, Montessori, unschooling, classical education. And then after you familiarize yourself with that, you could start to look into curriculums, classical conversations, the good and the beautiful, Abeka, time for learning. These are curriculums I recommend to families a lot. There's so many good ones. Gather Round, a lot of good curriculums. If people are having trouble financially, because a lot of the people, the FU people, the must be nice people that were coming at me, they were like, must be nice to have the money to homeschool. I'm like, I help broke families homeschool all the time. ABC Jesus Loves Me is free. The easy peasy Gather Round. See, a family in here likes that curriculum. The easy peasy all-in-one homeschool is free. The Khan Academy is free. We love the Good and the Beautiful curriculum. Good and the Beautiful, when my children, I think when they're 5, I'm going to start them on Good and the Beautiful. Courtney had a phone call, but Courtney's back. Yeah, I was just saying, so after you familiarize yourself with Montessori, Charlotte Mason, unschooling, and classical education, then look into curriculums like, then you start looking into curriculums. So classical conversations, the Good and the Beautiful, time for learning, Abeka. If you need free ones, if money's tight, ABC Jesus Loves Me, Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool, Khan Academy. By the way, no one should be paying for homeschool material before their children are 4. Really, like I said, I'm not using the formal material until my children are 5. But then you want to get, at that time, I recommend getting a formal curriculum, and you don't have to like follow it to the T, but to me, like I always get materials that are kind of laid out for me, like this is what you do, because I don't have a lot of time to like, all right, now I have to put together a lesson plan. Like I want that stuff laid out for me so I could just go into the book and be like, oh, I like this lesson plan, I'm going to do this, right? So to me, like always get a formal curriculum. Plus, like if, you know, Big Brother comes knocking, you know, you want to have like, no, we're doing the good and the beautiful. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then the last thing you want to do is once you pick a curriculum, when you start homeschooling your children, you really want to start to focus on what type of learner they are, because you're going to discover things about your child. Like some children learn visually, some people learn auditorily, some people learn with kinesthetics, with touching. Some children need more hands-on activities. Some children are like ADHD and they need to run around in the yard and like they need shorter lessons. Like if your child's ADHD, don't make them sit down for an hour. Do a 20-minute lesson and then let little Johnny go run around for an hour, and then, you know, after that hour, do another 20-minute lesson, like whatever it is. But like you want to pay attention to the way your child learns. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and then I'll wrap this up. My private homeschool community is Classical Learner Today at Gmail. That's my email. My private homeschool community is Classical. My private homeschool community is Homeschools Connected. Promo code together is $10 a month. My other channel is Cubs to Bears. Classical Learner YouTube, Classical Learner Instagram. I'm Classical Learner on Gab. Can everyone please get on Gab? Gab is one of the best, in my opinion, Gab is the best social media site in the world. Yes, it has some bugs because they're like building up organically, but the infrastructure that Andrew Torba has built there is really phenomenal. And I would love for you to be in the Gab community. Couldn't speak higher of it. Do you have any suggestions for Canadian homeschooling or know someone that is well informed? Yeah, Marine Princess, a member of this community, she's actually in Canada. She homeschools. And I've actually done consultations with some families in Canada. Homeschool Legal Defense Association does list the laws for Canada. So go to their website, check the laws, and just whatever you do, like with homeschooling, you always want to make sure you follow the law to the letter. Because if you do that, anyone tries to make a claim against you, you follow the law, you keep good records, and then no one can tell you what to do. And like, you're in control of what happens in your home, but there's a certain way to make sure that your paperwork is right. And it's so important. I can't stress it enough. And a lot of people try to do bravado, but this is why I constantly talk about this stuff with my community. Like, I have responsibility. You know, I have established myself as an authority in the community, and I will not allow the people that follow me to get caught in a bad situation. You have to familiarize yourself with your regulations where you live. You have to familiarize yourself with your responsibility as a record keeper, and you have to keep good records. Because as we saw in 2020, the world could change fast, all right? And for anyone that follows me, they know I'm very good at predicting future events. And that's not bragging, that's not anything like that. It's just when you get to a certain frequency in how you operate in the world and view the world, things kind of start to become clearer. And I can't stress enough that it's important right now that you keep those records, okay? So please make sure you do that. Don't listen to these bravado people, these like, the government can't tell me what to do. The government can tell you what, the only way the government can't tell you to do is as far as you understand how to protect yourself legally, because the law is a tool. And if you understand how to protect yourself legally, you're right, the government can't tell you what to do. But if they can get leverage over you, you better believe they can tell you what to do. So freedom, like people they think freedom is bravado. Freedom is responsibility. Freedom is the choices we make every day, and it's extreme responsibility. I know people that are so free that I'm not allowed to talk about it. So free you wouldn't believe. The type of people that if you Googled them, they would tell you those people don't exist. I can tell you they exist because I know them. They're friends of mine. And they're so responsible that I don't try to achieve that level of freedom because I understand how much time and effort that takes. And I'm a homesteader, right? I'm someone who sold my house, lives to get out of debt, has farmland, grows their own food. I'm a homesteader. And I'm telling you how much responsibility these people have, okay? I homeschool my children. I own a business, right? Like, I love these people telling me, like, about my privilege. Like, if these people understood the amount of hours I spend working every day, I published 7 books. I've written 8 books. One of them I didn't publish because I decided it would be dangerous for my family because it was on, it's a shame. It would have done a lot of good in the world, but it was on pharma. But unfortunately, I started writing it before March of 2020. And after March of 2020, with everything going on in the world, my wife was upset about it. I just spiked it. But that was actually a long book. It was 130 pages, and it would have made a big difference in the world. But as much as I like to fight the system, it was the right move to spike it for my family. So, but yeah, I mean, people with their privilege, with their complaining about other people's privilege, just victim mentality. What would you say is the biggest challenge when homeschooling? Realizing you don't have to replicate public school and managing the behavior of your children, right? Like you have to establish a certain degree of behavior for your children. And if you do that and you realize you don't have to force them to study anything, like you could follow the interest of your children, that you really only need like at most 2 hours a day of formal learning and that's for like elementary and above. Like you don't even need that much for younger. But at most 2 hours a day, formal learning, you'll do fine. You'll do fine. When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work, passion, and people lack it. Yeah. Like, you know, I write books about teaching children their rights and freedom. I run a company in which I teach people how to homeschool. Like, I love what I do. And like we joke in my house, like we don't know if I'm a night owl or a morning bird, but all we know is I'm either up until 2 a.m. working or I'm up at 4 a.m. starting work. So like there's no in between for me, and that's not a complaint. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have the health to be able to do that. I'm blessed to have the support. I'm privileged to have the support to be able to do that. But the one thing I'll never be is a victim, and the one thing I'll never do is allow my circumstances to make me into someone who doesn't take responsibility over my own life. Thank you so much. Gotta go, but I'll be seeing you more live. Appreciate you, sir. Appreciate you. Oh, my yes, you are right. Struggling with this now. So, all right, guys. I'll be back tomorrow at 12. I think I'm going to do an episode on homeschooling as a single parent, which will be applicable to all people. And, you know, you're not in this alone. It takes a village, which is why the promotion code to Homeschools Connected, my private homeschool community, is together. So it takes a community. And Eastern, 12 Eastern. Love your attitude. God bless you. And God bless you. Thank you so much for that. How do you help a child who hates formal learning, hates reading, hates writing? Yeah, they don't hate formal learning. They just hate what they're doing. So, like, if your child hates what they're doing, take a step back and start following their interests. So, like, if they don't want to read, you let them read about whatever they want to read about. Like, we don't have to read about chemistry or whatever. Like, you could read about Dora the Explorer books. Like, I don't care. Whatever you want to read about. But we just need you to read and it doesn't have to be stressful. Like, let's read as a family every night before bed for 45 minutes, an hour, right? Like, doesn't have to be stressful. If they don't want to do formal writing, you could let them do a diary. You could let them do creative writing about whatever they want. Like, just to use cooking as an example, like if they're into cooking, right, you could have them write out the recipes and you could help them with it. And then, like, just let them get into the flow so that they start to like writing a little bit. And then, like, what we want to do with writing is get them into the habit of editing their own work. So we don't ever really give them grades. but we want them to read through their writing, edit their own work, because that formulates the habit of them paying attention to grammar. And as they start to read books, they'll pick up on the grammatical styles of other writers. So, all right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I'll be back tomorrow. Freedom isn't free. We have to earn it every day. And I'll be back at 12 o'clock tomorrow to earn it.